Should love adhere to social status, or do true feelings matter most? Share your thoughts. The grand ballroom shimmered under the golden glow of countless chandeliers, their crystals refracting light into a cascade of warm glimmers that danced across the polished marble floors. A soft murmur of aristocratic voices swelled like a wave, the air thick with perfumed whispers and the faint scrape of silk gowns against stone. Lady Isabella stood poised at the grand piano, her slender fingers sweeping gracefully over the ivory keys, coaxing a secret melody into the charged air. Her auburn hair was coiled elegantly, the loose tendrils softened by the candlelight, while her emerald eyes, vibrant yet shadowed with yearning, gazed toward an invisible horizon only she could see. The music intertwined with the flickering flames, a delicate thread of hidden passion and untold stories weaving through the gilded chamber. As the melody floated upward, a sudden hush fell over the crowd, the kind that trembles with anticipation, but then, slicing through the fragile reverie, a cold voice rang out. How quaint, Prince Albert's tone dripping with disdain, carrying effortlessly across the marble expanses. Is this all the Duchess's talent? A mere trifle for idle ears. Gasps ripple like leaves in a storm. Heads snap toward the source. The prince's handsome but arrogant face held a smirk that curdled the air. His words echoed, sharp as a blade, cleaving through Isabella's performance. Isabella's fingers faltered, the notes stuttering, hesitation blossoming like a shadow in her heart. The warmth of the flame-lit room seemed to drain, replaced by a biting chill. The vibrant colors of the ball faded to muted grays in her vision, the tapestry of voices turning to distant, mocking laughter. A nobleman's chuckle slipped through the crowd, cruel and condescending. Indeed, she plays for nothing more than distraction. Isabella bit her lip, the taste of bitter shame flooding her mouth. Her hands trembled, betraying the composure she so fiercely guarded. The pendant nestled at her throat, a family relic she'd always believed was a talisman of strength, now felt like a chain dragging her downward. The orchestra's rhythm faltered, the musicians exchanging uneasy glances. The audience's shifting weight, the tapping of delicate shoes, the rustle of embroidered sleeves all merged into a cacophony of judgment. A courtier murmured, perhaps she should leave the stage to those with true heritage. The grand hall seemed to close in, the ornate frescoes above transforming into watchful eyes, condemning yet indifferent. Isabella's breath hitched, the melody she strummed slipping into silence, the final note hanging suspended before dissolving into the heavy air. Her emerald eyes sought refuge in the crowd but found none. Faces blurred a mosaic of aristocratic cruelty and indifference. Prince Albert's gaze landed on her again, cold and unrelenting. Consider this a kindness, Isabella. Your station is not yet ready for such aspirations. A flush of humiliation burned across her cheeks. The pulse in her ears thundered with the urgency of rejection. Yet beneath the cascade of shame, a spark unearthed itself, a flicker of quiet defiance woven into her breath. Isabella stepped back from the piano, her gown whispering against the floor, a wounded swan retreating beneath the weight of the world's gaze. The murmurs swelled once more as the courtiers studied her retreating figure, their words knives masked in velvet. The grand doors stood ajar, a beacon of light and escape beyond. Isabella paused, the crisp night air brushing her face through the opening, carrying distant sounds of freedom and whispered possibilities. The pendant glowed faintly against her skin, a reminder of stories yet untold, music yet unplayed, and love yet to be claimed beyond society's gilded cage. Her fingers brushed the cold metal, clutching it close as if drawing strength from its ancient core. The camera lingers on her retreat, a portrait of resilience shadowed by scorn, an ember kindling beneath a veil of despair. The grand ballroom's warmth and grandeur recede, swallowed by the quiet rustle of silk and the fragile echo of a secret melody waiting to bloom again. The door to Lady Isabella's chambers closed with a soft yet final click, shutting out the opulent chaos of the ball. The warm light of the grand palace evening gave way to the dim glow of fading candles and the silver moonlight filtering through heavy velvet drapes. Inside, The room felt impossibly vast, a cavernous world of solitude and shadows where every sound was swallowed by the thick silence. Isabella's heart thudded in her chest, echoing the relentless pulse of humiliation that clung to her like an unseen weight. She pressed her back against the ornate door, the cool wood grounding her amidst the storm of her unraveling composure. The scent of polished mahogany and fading roses surrounded her, relics of grandeur now tinged with the bitter tang of rejection. Her emerald eyes, usually so vibrant, flickered with uncertainty as she lowered herself to the edge of the velvet chaise, fingers trembling as they reached for the delicate family heirloom pendant resting against her throat. The pendant was a silent testament to lineage and expectation, a jewel threading her to a past filled with both love and confinement. Slowly, she traced its contours, her lips parting with a breathless whisper, her secret melody, lost in the echo of the grand hall and drowned beneath Prince Albert's cutting dismissal. The room seemed to absorb her fragile song, the notes barely audible, yet carrying the weight of hidden passion and desperate dreams. Her gaze drifted to the grand piano nestled in the corner, a silent sentinel to her hopes, its gleaming keys shadowed beneath the moonlight. She almost imagined the secret melody, soft and haunting, curling around the air like a whispered promise, one that might one day claim freedom from chains both visible and unseen. The walls, adorned with rich tapestries and portraits of ancestors whose unrelenting gazes bore down on her, felt less like comfort and more like judgment. The murmurs of critique from the ball replayed unbidden, sharpening their sting. Her breath hitched, a trembling ache making her chest tight, the heavy, suffocating doubt that perhaps her brilliance was nothing more than a flicker soon to be snuffed out. Yet beneath the tide of despair, beneath the hollow ache of societal scorn, a subtle ember glimmered, a stubborn flicker of will refusing to be extinguished. Her fingers tightened slightly on the pendant, the cold metal a paradoxical hearth warming her embers of defiance. From the faint glow of candlelight emerged the soft rustle of silk skirts, her loyal maid, Anna, appearing quietly in the doorway. Their eyes met, a communication through breath and glances, an affirmation of solidarity in a world that often threatened to silence women like Isabella. Anna's voice was a gentle murmur, heavy with unspoken encouragement. "My lady, the night is not yet over. Your melody deserves an audience beyond these walls." Isabella's lips twitched in a wistful smile, half in gratitude, half in guarded hope. She rose slowly, the silence around her now shifted, no longer a tomb, but a sacred space for quiet revolution. She approached the piano, fingers hovering over the keys once more, the secret melody beckoning with luminous possibility. The chamber seemed to hold its breath, the darkness yielding ever so slightly to the fragile light of her whispered song. Outside, the night deepened, cloaking the palace in velvet shadows, but within her heart, the faint notes of resilience began to rise, soft, unyielding, and beautifully defiant. The scene closed on Isabella's poised silhouette at the piano, a solitary figure weaving tales of love and longing through music, poised at the threshold of awakening and rebellion. The flickering flame of a solitary candle cast long shadows across the velvet-lined walls of Lady Isabella's chamber, its light fluttering in stark defiance of the heavy dusk that pressed against the windowpane. The grand palace, alive with the lingering echoes of the evening's grandeur, seemed mundanely distant now, a world she had momentarily escaped. Yet within this refuge, a tempest of emotions roiled beneath the composed surface of her pale complexion and stoic gaze. Isabella knelt at her old mahogany desk, the grain worn smooth by years of gentle hands, as faint moonlight kissed the edges of a folded letter rested delicately before her. Her fingertips trembled as they bridged the space between denial and hope, tracing the elegant script penned in ink as dark as her swirling thoughts. The letter felt like a whisper from another life, a secret kindness amid the cold rigidity of courtly life and Prince Albert's public dismissal. It spoke in riddles and soft promises, hinting at an affection not constrained by rank or duty. The scent of aged parchment mingled with the faintest trace of rosewater, evoking memories almost forgotten. A vibrant red rose, wilting now, yet still bearing the silent vow of love unspoken. Her emerald eyes shimmered, reflecting the flicker of the candlelight as her chest rose and fell with a breath caught between despair and longing. The letter's words flowed through her Minda melody, hidden beneath the surface, subtle yet insistent, much like the secret tune she had played moments before, one that now held new meaning. As she unfolded the page further, a delicate pressed rose petal slipped free, drifting across the desk like a fallen star, its deep crimson hue a poignant symbol of passion suppressed and dreams deferred. The fading bloom mirrored the doubt and hope entwined within her spirit, a fragile testament to the hidden yearnings of a heart constrained by societal expectation. For a long moment, Isabella remained still, her fingers clutching the letter close as a silent promise. The warmth of the candlelight grew, casting a halo around her figure, marking the genesis of a shift in awakening. The shadows that had once threatened to suffocate her ambitions now receded, replaced by a fragile but undeniable resilience. Behind her, the faint strains of the grand piano echoed softly from the distant music room, a haunting refrain that intertwined with the rising tide of courage within Isabella's soul. The secret melody played anew in her mind, a beacon leading from darkness to possibility. The scene held on her graceful yet determined visage as she rose slowly, the letter pressed to her heart. Her eyes, once clouded by rejection, now glimmered with a renewed clarity, reflecting the complexity of hope poised delicately on the precipice of change. Outside, the night deepened, the moon tracing silver paths through the sculpted gardens. Yet within the chamber, light blossomed, a tender, defiant spark heralding the journey ahead. The camera lingered on Isabella's silhouette framed against the velvet dusk, the soft rustle of silk a whispered accompaniment to the beginning of her stolen quest for love and freedom. In the muted dawn light filtering through stained glass, Lady Isabella sat alone at the grand piano in the dim recesses of her chamber, the room fragrant with the faint scent of lavender and old parchment. Her delicate fingers hovered hesitantly just above the keys, the heirloom pendant resting against her chest like both armor and burden. The world outside whispered with the first birdsong, but within these walls time was suspended in fragile moments, moments of reckoning and rebirth. Her breath caught as she pressed a tentative key, releasing a note so soft it barely stirred the heavy silence. The melody she coaxed forth was different this time, less a performance for the court, more a secret confession to shadows and ghosts. The notes traced a path of longing and defiance, speaking truths that her words could not carry. A sudden knock at the heavy oak door startled her, and her loyal maid Anna stepped in, her presence a beacon of steady warmth amid the uncertainty. The subtle rustle of her skirts punctuated the quiet as she closed the door behind her, eyes glimmering with unwavering support. "My lady, you must not lose yourself to the scorn of others," Anna said softly, voice steady yet infused with fierce loyalty. "This melody, the one you guard so fiercely, holds more power than the whispers that seek to diminish you." Isabella glanced up, emerald eyes flickering with shadowed doubt and a glimmer of resolve. "But what use is power when it hides? When it must be silenced beneath expectation and decree?" Anna approached, placing a reassuring hand over Isabella's. "Then let it be your rebellion, your declaration that your spirit cannot be caged by those who refuse to hear." The words settled over Isabella like gentle rain on parched earth. Renewed, she sat straighter, fingers flattening against the keys, summoning the opening notes of the secret melody once more, the notes weaving a tapestry of sorrow and hope, defiance and grace. Outside, the garden swayed beneath a sudden spring breeze, petals of the wilting roses shaking loose, drifting like fragile tears through the golden light of a fresh day. The palace, once an imposing fortress of rigid propriety, now seemed touched by a quiet promisee space where hidden truths might blossom. Yet, beneath the surface of beauty and tradition, tension simmered. The halls echoed with murmurs of the prince's ambitions and the whispers of alliances forged in shadow. Isabella's steps into this new dawn were light but laden with risks still unseen. As the music swelled bright, tender, and unrestrained, the chamber door creaked open once more, revealing a folded note slipped beneath it. Isabella's breath caught once again. She unfolded the letter with trembling fingers, eyes scanning the elegant script. The missive was anonymous, yet each word seemed infused with a personal promise, a hint at love that dared to transcend social chains. It spoke of understanding beyond rank and duty, a possibility shimmering in the quiet spaces between words. Isabella's gaze lifted from the letter as the candlelight flickered, casting dancing shadows that seemed to sway in harmony with the melody still hovering in the air. The chamber felt alive with unspoken possibilities, the suppressed hopes of a heart refusing to be silenced. The camera held on her face an exquisite blend of vulnerability and emerging strength, the slow building of a rebellion not just of note and refrain, but of spirit and desire. Outside, the heavy palace gates stood resolute against the dawn, yet promise lingered in every leaf stirred by the wind, every petal not yet fallen from the desolate rose bush that guarded the garden's edge. Is love to be hidden, or will it bloom in defiance? The music faded to a whisper, the scene closing on Isabella cradling the letter close to her heart, a fragile beacon in the shadowed dawn, poised to lead her beyond expectation and into the uncharted realm of courage and love. The soft glow of a late afternoon sun filtered through the heavy velvet drapes of Lady Isabella's chamber, casting hues of gold and crimson that seemed both warm and fragile, much like her own trembling resolve. She sat near the window, the secret letter pressed tightly in her hand, the faint fluttering of its worn edges resonating with the fluctuating pulses of her heart. Silence weighed heavily around her, broken only by the gentle rustling of the rose petals she had laid upon the writing desk, now wilting under the unforgiving march of time. Footsteps approached softly, delicate as a whispered promise, and Anna appeared quietly, carrying a tray of tea and a hint of fortitude. Their eyes met an unspoken exchange of steadfast loyalty and shared burden. "My lady," Anna murmured, setting the porcelain gently down, "the palace breathes with more turmoil than ever. Whispers speak of your secret admirer, but shadows are brooding." Isabella's emerald eyes clouded with sudden unease. "A forbidden match," she whispered, voice trembling yet tinged with a fragile spark. "One marked by danger and disdain." Across the grand halls, the palace stirred with subtle tensions. Nobles exchanged carefully veiled glances. Courtiers whispered of political machinations weaving through the corridors like an invisible serpent. Prince Albert's presence loomed like a dark thunderhead, his ambitions casting long shadows over Isabella's fragile hopes. Her fingers clenched the pendant beneath her gown, the cool metal grounding her amidst the tempest. A flicker of the secret melody danced in her mind, a plaintive tune that was both sanctuary and battle cry. She played the notes softly on the piano that night, each chord a quiet rebellion, each sigh a defiance against the confines society imposed. Yet, every clandestine rehearsal carried the weight of risk. The palace was a cage, its gilded bars guarded by suspicion and rigid expectation. Isabella's gaze drifted to the ornate mirror, reflecting back not only her delicate frame but the growing steel beneath. That evening, beneath crystalline chandeliers and amidst swirling gowns and masked faces, Isabella moved like a shadow, forever on the cusp of discovery. The weight of concealed glances and half-spoken truths tugged at her soul. A fleeting encounter at the garden's edge, a fellow noble closely veiled, voice low and urgent, hinted that the admirer's identity might be closer than she imagined, yet more perilous. "Not all secrets," he whispered, "should be revealed without consequence." Sophia's pulse quickened. The game of love and politics was no longer a distant danger but a tightening noose. The promise of affection melded with the threat of ruin, the lines between ally and adversary blurred in the flickering torchlight. In her solitude, Isabella wrestled with the weight of this revelation, the heart's yearning against the harsh dictates of duty, the faint hope for love shadowed by the looming storm of societal expectation. With a deep breath, she resolved to navigate this perilous path, knowing each step might bring triumph or tragedy. The secret melody, no longer just a song, became a beacon, a silent pledge to fight for a love that transcended rank and expectation. As the evening wore on, the palace settled into a tense calm, with secrets whispered behind locked doors and hearts beating in quiet rebellion. The camera lingered on Isabella's silhouette framed by the grand window, the waning light casting her shadow against the rich tapestries, a figure poised between hope and uncertainty, on the precipice of a dangerous, beautiful awakening. Outside, the garden's wilting rosebud trembled in the night breeze, a delicate symbol of love's fragility and resilience, waiting to bloom against the odds. The scene closed on a note of suspended breath, a promise that the night's revelations were only the beginning of the trials and passions to come. The masquerade ball unfolded beneath a vaulted ceiling hung with endless strands of glimmering crystal and silk, the room teeming with the rustle of whispered secrets and swirling gowns. Ornate masks veiled the faces of courtiers, their eyes glinting with hidden intentions, as if the very air was thick with both promise and peril. Lady Isabella moved cautiously through the crowd, her emerald eyes scanning, searching every note of the secret melody echoing softly in her memory, a balm and beacon amid the opulence. Draped in a gown of muted jade, reflecting the rich tapestries lining the room, Isabella clutched the hem of her skirts, heart thudding beneath the weight of whispered rumors and tightening expectations. Each step was a delicate dance, both graceful and guarded, through a sea of concealed identities and veiled agendas. Suddenly, a hand clad in black velvet brushed hers. Isabella looked up to see a figure cloaked in an ornate mask, intricate filigree tracing patterns that caught the candlelight like fleeting stars. Their eyes met, a recognition igniting not in words, but a silent understanding. This was no stranger. The mysterious partner knew her secret melody, the very tune whispered from her soul, a sign of an ally in a court riddled with betrayal. The dance began, a hypnotic intertwining of shadows and light, the music swelling and retreating like tides of longing and danger. With every step, Isabella felt the twin edges of hope and dread sharpened, realization that love and treachery were bound as tightly as the notes composing her hidden song. In whispered conversation beneath the masks, veiled words hinted at truths too long hidden. "Beware, dear lady," the voice murmured, thick with urgency and affection. "Prince Albert's plans stretch far beyond what is seen. Your fate is tangled in schemes that seek to silence and bind." The realization struck Isabella like a cold gale. Her secret admirer was perhaps the only refuge amid a palace of veiled threats. Yet, this knowledge deepened the peril, tethering her heart more tightly to the dangerous dance of power and deceit. Suddenly, the delicate flow of the ball shattered. From a hidden gallery, Isabella's name was uttered sharply among a group of whispering nobles, their words laced with scandal and warning. Eyes turned, masks angled, and suspicion bloomed. Prince Albert's voice reverberated across the chamber, cutting through the murmurs. "A duchess who listens to shadows invites ruin to our halls. Beware where your heart wanders, Isabella." The whispered melody resurfaced in Isabella's mind, a haunting song of love concealed and courage summoned. Her mask was a fragile shield, yet beneath it, her determination burned brighter. As the music wound down, the mysterious partner bowed, slipping away into the maze of masked figures, leaving a whisper like a ribbon of smoke. "Trust only what your heart reveals beyond sight." Isabella stood alone in the swirling sea of silk and shadow, the weight of revelation heavy in the flickering candlelight. The bouquet of wilting roses on a distant table caught her eye, a poignant mirror to her own fading hopes combating the rising storm. Her breath caught between fear and newfound resolve as the truth settled. Love was a battlefield, and her secret melody was both a weapon and a prayer. The camera held on her poised yet uncertain silhouette framed by flickering lanterns, the grand ballroom a tapestry of secrets and desires, poised at the cusp of darkness and light. Beyond the polished floors and vaulted ceilings, the palace whispered its timeless truths of love that defied rank, of courage born in shadows, and of a destiny that even a prince's power could not wholly command. The relentless rain battered the towering stone facades of the palace, dark clouds swallowing every trace of twilight as the storm deepened into night. Within the cold, labyrinthine corridors of her chambers, Lady Isabella sat alone on the edge of an ornate chaise, its velvet upholstery worn, the fabric pressing cold through the delicate lace of her gown. The flickering candlelight cast long, quivering shadows that stretched across the walls, shadows that seemed to mirror the fractures in her heart. Her auburn hair, once meticulously arranged, hung damp and tangled, strands clinging to her pale face streaked with tears. Emerald eyes, which had sparkled with hope and defiance not long ago, were now dulled and glassy, reflecting a woman unraveling beneath the crushing weight of betrayal and despair. The faint heartbeats of the fading candle were swallowed by the oppressive silence, a silence so heavy it pressed into her very soul. Isabella's fingers trembled as they clutched the secret letter, now barely legible from countless foldings and unfoldings, stained by the moisture of her tears. The ink had blurred, just as her clarity had, her dreams dissolving like drafts caught in the rain-slick wind outside. Outside the window, the wilting rose in the garden convulsed under the storm, its crimson petals torn and scattered by the tempest, symbolizing fading hopes and dreams, the silent echo of Isabella's own faltering courage. The palace, once a sanctuary of elegance and command, felt more like a cage forged in gold and expectation, imprisoning her in a life scripted by others. The distant rumble of thunder resonated with the turmoil within Hera's symphony of turmoil and loss, its cadence unyielding. Her secret melody, the one she had whispered to herself in moments of solace, felt swallowed by the darkness, its notes fragmented and unheard beneath the cacophony of scheming and control that enveloped the court. The weight of Prince Albert's threats to coerce her into a politically convenient marriage crushed her like the relentless downpour battering the world beyond her window. His ambitions were a prison, his cold words binding tight as chains forged from duty and power. Isabella's breath caught, a ragged inhale as she pressed the pendant to her lips, a symbol of the family legacy now tainted by forced submission. The ponytail ribbon slipped free, a small detail, yet like everything else unraveling around her. Her whisper was barely audible. "Is this the end of my song?" A distant echo down the empty hallway stirred briefly, footsteps fading away, leaving an echoing void. The grand palace that had witnessed dreams and dramas now felt hollow, suffocating in its silence. Isabella's figure slumped further, shadows claiming her as the candle guttered, its faint glow succumbing to the night. And in that defeat, a profound quiet settled, a liminal space where hope flickered, faint but persistent, beneath the overwhelming darkness. The scene closed on her bowed head and trembling hands, a portrait of a soul teetering on the brink of collapse, the impending unraveling of a world once filled with possibility. The cold breath of the night seeped through the cracks of the chamber windows, carrying a chill that wrapped itself tightly around Lady Isabella's frail form. She sat slumped on the edge of a velvet-covered chair, her auburn hair tangled and unbound, cascading like a dark river over her pale shoulders. The flickering candlelight was weak, its golden flames trembling as if hesitant to disturb the silence that had become an oppressive shroud. Outside, the sprawling palace lay cloaked in shadows, its grand halls and ornate tapestries swallowed by the deep, indifferent darkness. The silence inside was punctuated only by the distant echo of footsteps along empty corridors, a haunting reminder of her solitude. Isabella's emerald eyes, once bright with hope and yearning, now mirrored the hollow void that had taken root within. Her gaze was fixed upon the wilting rose placed carefully on the polished table, its once vibrant petals now curled and brittle, the color faded like the dreams she clung to. Her trembling fingers brushed against the delicate pendant resting at her throat, the family heirloom, once a talisman of love and protection, now a weight anchoring her to a destiny marred by betrayal. The secret melody she so often whispered in solace echoed faintly in her mind, but tonight even that fragile comfort seemed drowned beneath despair. The air grew colder as the candle sputtered, shadows lengthening and converging like the relentless tide of her sorrow. Isabella's breaths were shallow, each one a gust of despair dissolving into the vast emptiness that consumed her. A solitary tear traced a slow, shimmering path down her cheek, glistening as it caught the last flicker of light before falling away into the darkness. She whispered a fragile plea to the emptiness, "Is this my only song now?" Outside, The wind howled through the ancient stone archways, a mournful lament that resonated with the fracturing of her soul. The palace, once a bastion of grandeur and hope, now felt like a labyrinth of shadows, imprisoning her in a night with no dawn. Her body curled inward, seeking to disappear beneath the weight of her grief. The faint shimmer of the pendant's gold seemed distant and cold, no longer a beacon but a reminder of chains unseen. The world receded to a silent void where time lost meaning, and Isabella hovered on the precipice of surrender. The echo of her secret melody faded into the abyss, leaving behind nothing but a breathless, aching stillness. The scene held on her fragile silhouette, framed by the dying candlelight, an enduring image of love lost, hope frayed, and a heart consumed by darkness. The echoes of a world patiently waiting outside whispered a quiet promise that even in the deepest despair, the possibility of light still flickered beneath the surface. The dimly lit room was cloaked in a heavy silence, broken only by the errant flicker of the fireplace's last embers. Lady Isabella sat curled on the cold marble floor, the chill of the stone pressing into her gown and seeping through her skin as if to root her despair deeper. The seams of the once grand chamber, now shadowed with neglect, seemed to close in, mirroring the confinement tightening around her heart and spirit. Her emerald eyes, dull and veiled with unshed tears, rested on the wilting rose on the nearby table. Its crimson petals were curled, edges brownade, a silent emblem of fading hope and dreams long withered. The scent of the rose, faint yet persistent, drifted around her like a ghostly reminder of what had been promised and might never be. Clasped tightly in her hand was the letter from her secret admirer, its fragile parchment marked with the delicate script that once ignited her fledgling hopes. Now, the letter felt like a relic from a distant world, a whisper of warmth banished by the cold shadow of Prince Albert's relentless dominance. Isabella's trembling fingers brushed the letter softly, as if seeking to summon strength from the inked words etched within. The secret melody she had played reverberated faintly in her Minda haunting echo, fragile yet enduring, a tether to the love she yearned for yet feared lost. A distant sound strayed, a faint melody drifting from the grand piano in a nearby hall. The notes, tentative and bittersweet, wove through the stillness like a fragile thread, resuscitating the fragile spark of rebellion within her. It was the very melody she had whispered to herself in solace. Now it resonated like an unseen embrace, a promise that all was not yet lost. Isabella lifted her gaze toward the music, the embers of despair flickering alongside a nascent flame of hope. The pendant at her throat caught what little light remained, shimmering like a beacon against the encroaching night. She whispered into the stillness, voice soft but resolute, "There is still a song to sing." The chamber seemed to breathe with her words, the shadows loosening their grip as a gentle breeze stirred the curtains, carrying with it the faint, sweet aroma of a single blooming rose from the palace gardens, a portent of renewal amid decay. Slowly rising, Isabella gathered the letter and clutched the pendant, the fragile threads of courage weaving anew through her heart. Her silhouette cast long, determined shadows against the marble as she stepped toward the door, stepping from the hollow depths of despair toward the uncertain dawn. The scene held quiet, poignant in her steadfast figure framed against the soft glow of the fireplace's afterglow, a visual testament to resilience born from ruin. Beyond the chamber, the palace lay veiled in slumber, guarded by the sweeping night and the promise of dawn's light breaking through the weight of darkness. And within the stillness, the secret melody awaited, ready to be played again, heralding an awakening about to begin. The grand hall, once drowned in shadows and whispers, now glimpsed a faint dawn. Its high ceilings and elaborate chandeliers still shimmered with residual darkness, yet a subtle shift in the atmosphere signaled the awakening of something fragile and hopeful. Lady Isabella moved cautiously through the ornate corridors, her steps echoing softly against the marble, each footfall a tentative step away from despair and toward resolve. She paused before a towering mirror, its gilded frame catching the first rays of sunlight filtering through stained glass. Her reflection was a tentative mirror of her renewed spirit, eyes alight with quiet determination, yet tinged with the trace of vulnerability that shame and silence had carved into her face. The heavy silks of her gown shimmered in the light, no longer just a cloak of societal expectation but a symbol of her quiet defiance. Her hand trembled slightly as she reached into her gown, fingertips brushing the cold, familiar smoothness of the heirloom pendant. It was more than jewelry. It was her shield and her secret, a vessel of hopes long suppressed. With a deep, steady breath, she clasped it, feeling the faint warmth of her own resolve ignite beneath her fingertips. In the distant corner of the chamber, the grand piano, silent and dust-covered, sat like a relic of her forgotten dreams. Her gaze drifted instinctively to its polished surface, and for the briefest moment, she saw beyond the gloom an image of herself in a moment of courage, her fingers poised over the keys, ready to unleash a melody that could silence the court and reveal the truth. A gentle breeze flickered through the open window, stirring the curtains and carrying with it the scent of dew and blooming roses from the palace gardens. The wilting flower on the side tablia, symbol of hope's fading, seemed to tremble, as if sensing her awakening. With deliberate purpose, Isabella approached the piano and laid her hands on the keys. Her fingertips hesitated, hovering over the ivory, then pressed down gently. The first notes, soft, tentative, began a subtle rebellion. The melody was fragile yet resonant, carrying a whisper of her unspoken strength, a promise to herself that her journey was far from over. The music filled the chamber, slowly gaining confidence, as if awakening from a long sleep. The shadows receded slightly, light spilling over the ornate carvings and gilded moldings, hinting at a transformation and internal rebirth unfolding beneath the gilded ceiling. Her eyes closed, the notes swirling around her like a delicate cloak of hope. In that moment, she understood beneath layers of doubt lay latent power, waiting to ignite. The melody was more than a song. It was an act of rebellion, a testament to her resilience and the first step toward justice. As the music lingered in the air, her silhouette framed by the dawn's gentle glow, Isabella's face softened with a trace of hope. The palace, once a fortress of silence and shadows, now echoed quietly with the promise of change, a fragile, shimmering promise that her inner strength was awakening, and that her voice, once muted, was poised to rise again. The grand hall, long shrouded in shadow and foreboding, now shimmered with the faint glow of dawn filtering through stained glass windows. Lady Isabella, her posture poised with deliberate resolve, stepped into the center of the hall. The air was thick with anticipation, yet her presence radiated quiet, undeniable strength. Her gown, once a symbol of societal decorum, now carried a subtle defiance and elegant assertion that her voice was no longer to be silenced. The ornate mirror above the fireplace reflected her image, a woman transformed from the shadows of despair into a silent guardian of her own destiny. Her emerald eyes, once filled with doubt, now shimmered with purpose, a reflection of reborn confidence that radiated outward in quiet waves. In her hand, she clutching the heirloom pendant, feeling its cool surface against her palm, a reminder of her roots, her heritage, and the promise of liberation on the horizon. Her fingers pressed lightly into the metal, as if drawing strength from its silent whisper of resilience. The haunting melody that once seemed to belong solely to her secret heart now grew clearer in her mind, her own voice entwined with that sacred tune, a song of love and defiance. A distant clock chimed, marking the hour of decision. With measured breath, Isabella approached the grand piano nestled beneath the stained glass dome, its polished surface gleaming in the dawn's gentle light. Her fingers brushed the keys, tentative at first, then pressing down with renewed resolve. The notes, once hushed and trembling, surged forth like a tide of her unspoken truths. The music swelled, filling the chamber with waves of defiance and hope. The notes resonated beyond the walls, stirring the very fabric of the palatial symphony of courage rising from the depths of despair. The shadows, once oppressive, seemed to retreat in the face of her renewed spirit, the dark corners opening into space bathed in golden dawn. Her face, illuminated by the breaking light, reflected not just the music but the blooming of her soul, a visual testament to her reclamation. Each chord was a silent declaration that her love, her voice, was not to be constrained by society's chains. The melody, her melody, became a force and act of rebellion woven into every note. Behind her, the heavy velvet drapes fluttered softly, caught in a breeze that carried whispers of a future rewritten. The pale sunlight spilled across the polished floor, casting a luminous path, a bridge from despair to hope. In that moment, Isabella's posture straightened, her spirit soaring with the realization that her transformation was just beginning. The music lingered, a final whisper of victory in the dawn's light, a melody of love, strength, and unyielding resolve. The scene suspended, capturing her silhouette against the luminous dawn, a quiet breakthrough, glowing with the promise of a new dawn waiting to be claimed. The grand hall shimmered in the dawn's first light, casting long, luminous rays through stained glass and pooling golden warmth over the assembled court. Lady Isabella, once shadows of doubt and despair, now stood resolute in her gown of muted gold, her emerald eyes shining with an unwavering clarity. Her posture was regal, full of proportion, embodiment of victory born from the depths of darkness. The heirloom pendant gleamed at her neck, catching the morning sun like a shard of her own rebirth, a beacon of resilience and quiet defiance. Every line of her figure radiated strength, echoing the silent melody that had once been her secret, now transformed into a triumphant symphony that resounded within her soul. The tumult of the past, the humiliation at the ball, the threats of political traps, the doubts seeded by society's rigid expectations faded into the background. The court, once a battleground of whispers and scheming, now bathed in the softness of acceptance and truth. Her voice, once silenced by fear, had risen in the music of her own making, a song not just of love, but of liberation. A gentle breeze stirred the heavy velvet drapes, carrying whispers of renewal from the palace gardens, where the wilting rose symbol of fading hopes began to unfurl anew, tender and resilient. The symbolism was clear. Love and hope, once battered and obscured, now blossomed in the promise of dawn. In her heart, Isabella felt the stirring power of her transformation, a quiet force that had turned despair into purpose, vulnerability into strength, with every note of courage echoing through her being. She lifted her chin slightly, radiating a calm resolve that surmounted societal chains. Behind her, courtiers exchanged glances soaked in awe and silent recognition of her quiet victory. The court's rigid veneer cracked, revealing respect and an unspoken acknowledgement of her truth. Isabella's gaze swept across the chamber, a silent, unwavering promise that her love was no longer confined by the hollow expectations of aristocracy. The music she would now play was her signature, an enduring echo of love and liberty, a melody that no oppressive silence could drown. Her silhouette framed by the rising sun, she was poised at the brink of her final confrontation, the last act of her transformation ready to unfold. The scene lingered on her poised figure against the light, a symbol of hope reborn, an eternal testament that even in the depths of despair, true love and authenticity could carve out a future brighter than any courtly decree. A soft dawn filtered through the tall, arched windows of the grand hall, casting a gentle golden glow that seemed to pause time itself. Lady Isabella stood amidst the quiet aftermath of upheaval, her figure slender but resolute. Her gaze rested on the empty stage where her melody had once unmasked the deepest truths, now softly echoing in the air like a whispered promise. The ritual of music, once a symbol of silent rebellion, now felt like a covenant of her reborn spirit. The sweeping light revealed her in a moment of serene strength. Her auburn hair caught the glow, framing her face with fiery strands, while her emerald eyes shimmered with quiet reflection and acceptance. Her gown, now simpler in design but rich in meaning, swayed gently as she moved to a window overlooking the palace gardens, on Eden reborn from the shadows of past grievances. The wilting roses from her chamber lingered in her mind, each petal a metaphor for hopes long faded, yet in her heart, new buds had begun to unfurl. She reached out, her fingers brushing the cold glass, feeling the warmth of dawn seep into her bones. Behind her, the distant murmur of courtiers and servants carried the history of a day of reckoning, but her posture was calm, unshaken, a symbol of profound inner peace. Her hand moved instinctively to her heart, where the pendant now lay silent, resting against her skin like a sacred talisman. Its coolness grounded her, a reminder of the journey she had endured, the battles fought not with swords, but with love, resilience, and unwavering faith. Every scar, every tear, had sculpted her into a woman unafraid to claim her destiny. The palace, once a citadel of oppression, now radiated a subtle new energy, the promise of rebirth amid ruins. The radiant light through stained glass painted a mosaic of hope, each shard a reflection of her spirit awakening from long dormancy. Her silent melody lingered in her mind, a gentle reminder of how far she had come, from silence to voice, from despair to serenity. With deliberate grace, Isabella turned from the window, her steps light yet purposeful. Her figure silhouetted against the sunrise, she carried with her the quiet strength of a woman who had faced darkness and emerged renewed, her heart finally attuned to a future unburdened by societal chains. The scene lingered on her tranquil face, an emblem of hope, love, and the promise that even in the depths of silence, a new song could always be composed. As the light expanded, enveloping the room in a warm embrace, she moved forward into a future where her melody would echo through the halls of her heart, a testament to enduring love and unwavering freedom. As dawn stretched its golden fingers across the rolling hills, Lady Isabella stood silently in the grand hall, her gaze fixed on the distant horizon where sky met land in a seamless promise of renewal. Her once tentative posture now bore the quiet strength of someone who had embraced her true self, a woman who had witnessed her own awakening amid the shadows of societal chains. The echo of her melody lingered in the air, a gentle, eternal refrain of love and liberation woven into the very fabric of her being. The heirloom pendant at her collarbone caught the soft morning light, shimmering as if imbued with the collective hope of her journey. Her emerald eyes, once clouded by doubts and fears, sparkled with a newfound clarity and serenity. She moved gracefully, each step a testament to the inner peace she carried, now an acceptance of past scars and the radiant truth that love had always been within her grasp. The wilting rose in the nearby vase, once a symbol of fading dreams, now appeared resilient, reborn through her resilience. Its delicate petals unfurled slightly, kissed by the sunrise, whispering softly of new beginnings. The palace, once a gilded cage of expectation and silence, now bloomed with quiet joy, its grandeur echoing her inner awakening. Light flooded the stained glass windows, casting kaleidoscopic colors across polished floors and ornate furnishings, painting a tableau of hope and harmony. Shadows dissolved into this luminous space, replaced by shimmering presence and peaceful surrender. Across the chamber, courtiers and servants paused, their faces now gentle with admiration and respect. They saw in her not just the noblewoman bound by tradition, but a woman reborn strong, compassionate, fiercely free. Her smile, soft yet resolute, radiated with the unspoken promise of love unburdened by societal chains. Her hand reached out to the delicate music box on a nearby tablet, an heirloom, much like her own spirit, delicate but enduring. As she wound it gently, the soft, haunting melody played anew, an echo of her journey, a testament to the love that had endured, unmasked and unstoppable. The scene lingered on her silhouette, bathed in the warm, embracing light of the dawn, an image of serenity and hope. The melody filled the hall, weaving through the air like a sacred vow, whispering promises that love, when true and unbound, could always find its way. In this moment of luminous peace, Isabella closed her eyes briefly, bowing her head in gratitude. The weight of doubt and despair had dissolved, replaced by an unshakable serenity that lingered like a sacred hymn, a harmony of love, strength, and freedom that would forever echo within these ancient halls. A gentle dawn unfurled across the English countryside, spilling a soft, golden light through the grand windows of the palace, touching every ornate surface with warmth and quiet promise. Lady Isabella, now serene and radiating a quiet inner strength, stood amidst the tranquil halls, her figure bathed in the luminous glow. Her gown, once a symbol of societal restraint, now seemed to shimmer with unspoken triumph, a testament to the resilience that had transformed her. The heirloom pendant lay against her collarbone, its subtle gleam echoing the dawning realization her love, her truth, could no longer be silenced or chained by societal expectations. Her emerald eyes sparkled with clarity, reflecting the peaceful acceptance that had grown within her during the tumultuous nights past. The haunting melody that once whispered in her mind now played softly, an echo of her journey from despair to liberation. In the distance, the palace gardens stirred awake, roses unfolding their vibrant petals, resilient in the gentle breeze, a living symbol of love's enduring strength. The wilting rose from her chamber, once a mournful emblem of faded hopes, had now blossomed anew, wild and free amidst the dawn. She moved slowly toward a window, her hand reaching out to touch the cold glass, feeling the promise of peace whispering in the caress of the morning air. The silence was profound, yet filled with all the unspoken words of love, forgiveness, and self-acceptance. The clouds above drifted apart, revealing a sky splashed with hues of pink and amber, an eternal tableau of hope reborn. Behind her, the vast hall radiated calm, reminding all that even in the depths of struggle, beauty and truth find a way to flourish. Her silhouette, poised and tranquil against the light, embodied the serenity she had fought to claim, a symbol of love unchained and warmth restored. The camera slowly pulled back, framing her in the majestic stillness of dawn, the silent hymn of a soul that had unmasked its innermost melody. The scene lingered on her peaceful face, eyes closed for a moment of pure grace, listening to her own heart beat, a soft reminder that in love and truth, true freedom begins within. Have you ever discovered a secret you were destined to hear? Share your story below.